Hey class, we're back, and in this video I'm going to be talking about our move, rotate, and scale tools as well as our transform tool. So in the last video when we were duplicating these cubes, we actually pressed G to grab and then moved by pressing either X to move along the X axis, Y to move along the Y axis, or Z to move along the Z axis. So that is absolutely, and then I just hit escape to let go of my object. So that's absolutely a super fast way to move objects around in space. And with all of these tools, if I'm going to be rotating or scaling, by pressing the X, Y, or Z key immediately after pressing the shortcut, you can then scale or rotate in that one axis. So that in general is going to be a very fast way of moving around in Blender. However, I'd like to look at these tools individually just because I find them also very useful. So our move tool has 3 axes or 3 arrows. So there's an arrow in the X direction. Notice that the X is always red. The Y direction is always green, and the blue or the Z direction is always blue. So you always know which axis you're working with by its color. So grabbing one of these arrows, I can move this object along the X axis, the Y, or the Z. I prefer doing this compared to moving willy-nilly with moving 3 different axes all at the same time. You don't really know exactly where you're going to be dropping your object. So if you want to be precise about it, definitely try and move along one axis at a time. Second, you'll notice that when I'm moving along here, it is activating or changing the location in my transform tools. So I can also go in and just type in a number for where I want to move these to, and that will give me a nice precise movement. So just to know, and if I ever need to reset things to the origin, which is 0, 0, 0, I can do that too. 2, so that's moving in one direction. The other option is if I want to move in 2 directions at once. There's these little squares that are hovering around our box here. And these squares allow us to move in 2 directions. So I can move, let's see, I'm just going to go to the top view. I think that's the easiest one to understand. This blue box right here will allow me to move in the X direction and the Y direction, but it will not allow me to move up and down at the same time. So just only 2 axes at once. The other one, this red one, is allowing me to move either in the Y or the Z at once, but not in the X direction. So that can be handy. I probably don't use it very often at all, but just in case. All right, so to go back, I can either undo by pressing Command Z since I'm on a Mac, or probably Control Z on a PC. Or you can always reset your values over here. Okay, so that's the move tool, and I find that one very handy. Note, if you just press G to activate your grab tool and then do the X, etc., you will not get that same transform widget. So that's partially why I just like grabbing this one. All right, now as far as rotation goes, that's our next tool. Again, you're going to be rotating along one axis at a time, as opposed to going in all 3 directions. So if I grab this red line, I'm going to be rotating in the X axis, and you can see that's happening over here in my little object properties box. In the Y direction, I can go that way, and in the Z direction, I can go that way. So I highly, again, prefer to move that way rather than selecting this outside white box, which allows me to rotate in all directions at once, but you have no idea exactly where that's going to be going or what that's going to be doing. So you don't have a lot of precision and control. And the way that this is rotating is really based on the orientation of your camera. So the angle that I'm looking at this object in right now, as opposed to when I rotate around. So definitely, again, always use one of the axes at once. So just rotate one axis at a time. All right, the last one is our scale. And our scale has these kind of interesting little cubes at the top of the line. And again, these let you scale in one direction at a time, depending on which one you're grabbing. The outside lets you scale in all directions at once, or you could also just press S and drag away from the object to make it bigger, or drag towards the object to make it smaller. So again, that shortcut S will not activate the tools. It will just do an overall scale. I find for scale, this is where I would use a 2-direction scale. So these little boxes again, quite a bit. So being able to scale in 2 directions at once can be very handy if I only want to, scale in, say, the X and the Y direction at once. Then I would be grabbing that blue box. Or if I want to scale in this direction at once, or those 2 directions at once, I can do that too. So that can be really handy to use a 2-direction scale. So I would definitely recommend potentially using that from time to time. All right, and then again with scale, if you're grabbing that outside ring, you're just going to be scaling uniformly everywhere. Cool. Now our final one is our transform widget, which combines all of these tools at once. So you've got your arrows that allow you to move, your boxes that allow you to scale, and then your kind of curved lines here that are allowing you to rotate. To activate this, I believe you just press T. Let's go to W and then let's press T. Yeah, unfortunately the T hides my tools. It doesn't bring that up. But you can use that trick to do Shift and space bar and then just grab it over in this direction. So grab T. So that would work. Again, I don't use this one. I use the individual ones. That's how I like to work. So for this little exercise here, I actually do want you to make a few cubes. How about let's make at least 5, if not more. And I want you to set up a nice little composition using move, scale, and rotate to create something kind of interesting looking. You are artists, so think about what could look cool, how can you play with contrasts and size and scale, and just play around with these different tools. Again, to duplicate, you can just press Shift and D, and then click where you want to move your object to. So again, Shift and D, and then if I press Y, I can move just along that axis. Again, with this one, Shift and D will duplicate this, and I'm going to move it along my X axis. That could be fun. So make me a few different objects, try and turn it into a little bit of a composition. And then when you're done, I'd like you to take a screenshot and submit it. So when you're taking screenshots on a Mac, you're going to go Command, Shift, and 4, the number 4. So Command is that kind of clover leaf button, Shift and 4, and then it's going to turn your cursor into like a little crosshair here. And then you're just going to click and drag around what you want to take a picture of. So let's do that. If you do want to add in a little color, we'll talk about this later, but you can click on your viewport shading here and then just choose like random for your colors, which could be kind of fun. You can do that. And so have fun with this. Give yourself at least 10-20 minutes to just play around. Make sure you understand what each of these tools do, and then we'll move on to the next exercise where we're actually going to be adding a variety of objects. All right, thanks class.